Hey, thanks for stopping in. This is James, and today I am joined by my friend here.
I'm Alex.
And we are just going to talk to you a little bit about a movie that we watched. It is called The Lighthouse.
Yep.
So I was looking forward to this movie for a while, and there's a couple reasons. First of all, I did like The Witch. Did you see The Witch?
Maybe that's the one with the Black Phillip, right?
Yep.
Okay, then yes.
I think you watched. That was
I watched
like
it on my own.
Yeah, that was like shortly before you kind of jumped in on Scary Movie Monday, and you were like, "Hey, what are some good horror movies?" And that was one that I sent you.
Yeah.
So I liked it. I liked The Witch, and so Robert Eggers was already on my radar. So when I saw he was making a new movie, I was, I guess, excited enough.
Mm-hmm.
The Witch I liked, but I also understand that it is a extremely slow burn, and obviously it edges more to that art house cinema. Okay, so we have I would say there's 3 to 4 kind of big horror directors today.
Okay.
You got your Jordan Peele, who's definitely way over here on this side. And then you've got your Ari Aster, who I would say almost falls in the middle. He's playing with the artsy ideas, but it's still somewhat more palatable.
Yeah.
And then I think Eggers is all the way on the artsy side. I feel like he wants his movies to be like David Lynch. This movie reminded me so much of Eraserhead. It's just yes, it's a horror movie, but I'm purposefully making it fucking weird.
Yeah.
I want art cinema students to fucking orgasm over this shit.
Well, not only that, but even literature students. I could see watching this in English class and then just discussing for hours about all the symbolism and
this movie is so Herman Melville. It is so Ernest Hemingway. It is very American literature, early American literature, centric.
Kind of. I think I noticed something you didn't.
Okay.
So it wasn't until the last shot that I started playing stuff back. There was a minute there where the one moment where Defoe's bare ass naked and just lights coming out of his eyes.
Things are different.
Okay, but that specific pose is seen a lot in Greek
That's
art.
a Greek thing, right?
And so the very last thing was mirroring Prometheus's.
Yes,
downfall.
it was very good,
So,
Alex. That was one of my trivia entries.
Okay,
You so smart.
I like Greek stuff. Sorry, no, but that was, and then I was trying to put the rest of it together, and I can't really quite get all of it. I guess.
Yeah.
Because some of it doesn't make sense because obviously the lighthouse is the fire, and then his punishment's that, but then in between getting all the extra connections doesn't make a whole lot of sense if they're just trying to retell that story, or if that was just one of the million plot symbolisms that he's trying to run.
think that's probably more on the nose, is that he is combining a lot of things.
Yeah.
And the ending, though, specifically, he is directly mirroring the story of Prometheus.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. And then, of course, there's probably some sort of internal conflict of man and his
Right.
breaking of murdering somebody because he flashed his own self old and then he murdered himself. And
Right.
it was, again, really meta. And I'm sure my English teachers could make me argue over this for hours. But
Probably. Okay, so for those not in the know, The Lighthouse is a 2019 psychological horror film directed and produced by Robert Eggers. He co-wrote the screenplay with his brother Max Eggers. They shot the whole thing in black and white with a 1:19:1 aspect ratio, making it almost a perfect square.
Mm-hmm.
The idea being to emulate extremely early moving pictures of like, the 1800s or so, whenever movies were first becoming a thing. That was what they were shooting for there.
Like when I watched it on my iPod Shuffle, or what was the one? Like,
it's the iPod video. I think they just called it iPod Video.
Yeah. Where you had like
that 30 gig iPod Video.
No, dude, you had to get the 500 gig one. That was
I didn't get that one. That was a brick.
Yeah, it was like 80 pounds, and like you had to run like your like LimeWired videos through like a special converter.
Yeah, it had its own format. I forget what it was, but yeah,
something super. It was like
like MKS or something.
Yeah,
like
MKS sounds right.
That's hilarious.
Random tangent.
Fucking nerds. Okay, let me read the back of the box here real quick. As the wavering cry of the foghorn fills the air, the former lumberjack Ephraim Winslow and the grizzled lighthouse keeper Thomas Wake set foot in a secluded and perpetually gray inlet off the coast of 19th century New England. For the following 4 weeks, with back-breaking work and unfavorable conditions, the tight-lipped men will have no one else for company except for each other. Forced to endure the irritating idiosyncrasies, bottled-up resentment, and burgeoning hatred, then, amid bad omens, a furious and unending squall maroons the two in an already unhospitable volcanic rock, paving the way for a prolonged period of feral hunger, excruciating agony, manic isolation, and horrible booze-addled visions. Now the eerie stranglehold of insanity tightens. Is there an escape from the wall-less prison of the mind? To the Lighthouse. Okay. And we are back. And I'm starting off with just a little bit of trivia here. There was a lot of trivia for this movie.
Mm-hmm.
So much that like I kept reading it and it kept spoiling like little tiny nuggets of the movie. So I had to stop. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to have a ton of trivia. Even though there is a lot of trivia, I encourage you to look it up on your own. You can always go to IMDb for the Lighthouse to find the entry and go scroll on down, click on the trivia thing, read more. You can find all the stuff there. But William Dafoe and I'm going to do that the whole time. It's not Willem. I'm going to do that the whole time.
That's fine.
It's not Mr. Dafoe. I really do appreciate your work. It's not a real name. Get over yourself. Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson stated that they barely spoke a word to each other on set because they were too exhausted to hang out together after a day of shooting, because filming was so physically demanding due to the miserable weather conditions. While Pattinson stayed at a normal hotel with the rest of the film crew during the shoot, Dafoe lived in a little fisherman cottage a little fisherman cottage. I would like to go to a little fisherman college, though. That sounds interesting.
Very little people.
Very
tiny nets.
Tiny fishermen.
And very tiny boats.
Teaching each other how to be really good small fishermen.
Yes.
So he lived in this tiny fisherman's cottage in solitude. On set, on the other hand, Pattinson would tend to eat and stay by himself during breaks, while Dafoe stayed with the crew. Both stated that they liked each other very much as soon as they had their first real conversation months later after filming.
God.
So essentially, they only interacted with each other in character the entire time of filming. And then later they're like, oh, you are a nice guy. I don't hate you because you're young and trying to kill me. I don't hate you because you're old and trying to ruin my life.
And a masturbating octopus.
That too. So this story is actually loosely based on a real-life tragedy from 1801 called the Smalls Lighthouse Tragedy, in which two Welsh lighthouse keepers, both named Thomas, become trapped on their lighthouse station during a storm. When one man died, it is said to have driven the other mad. Other influences were seafaring literary classics by Herman Melville, Robert Louis Stevenson, supernaturally tinged weird tales of Lovecraft. Obviously, we got some octopus men in there and some shark vaginas. That'll be very Lovecraftian for you. As well as Algernon Blackwood, who I've never heard of. Algernon Blackwood.
Sounds familiar.
It sounds familiar, but it also sounds like it's just a D&D character.
Could be. Or like just like a weird like fanfic Harry Potter.
Yeah. So I want to look into that guy, because if he's somewhat Lovecraftian, I mean, it could be some interesting stuff. There was so much trivia. A couple other things. The lighthouse they built specifically for the shoot. And it was really, really cool and very period correct. And even the locals of where they were shooting, which I think was Nova Scotia, if I'm not mistaken, loved the architecture of it and loved how like true to, the period it was, and was like, hey, just leave this here. Like we'll upkeep it. It looks beautiful. Like this is awesome. But they couldn't, because they didn't really build it to be a permanent structure. And like if it were to fall down in the terrible weather that they had, which by the way, if you've seen this movie, pretty much all the weather is real. They brought rain and wind machines to the filming location, and they never had to use them because the weather was that terrible.
Dang. Dude, how crazy and like meta would it be is if like they shot the thing and then instead of it ends the way that it ends, but then like after the credits it continues on and it's actually the whole crew gets stuck there. And then it goes like full on like they just eat each other.
Yeah.
And then somehow that goes into more deep symbolism. And then somehow like it pans out and they're at the premiere and then they get stuck there.
Stop.
And then like
keep getting stuck. Yeah, I mean that I think at some point that will be a Robert Eggers movie. That sounds about right? Like he'll get there eventually.
Yeah, he'll get the rights to Popcorn too.
There it is. I was thinking of Eggers doing something that happens inside a movie theater, and I initially went to Popcorn. It made total sense to me. So yeah, the movie's basically about these two characters, which I mean we're just gonna refer to as the actors' names because they do such a great job of embodying the characters that. And I'm still not 100% sure. I mean, they tell us here in the description. Their names are Ephraim Winslow and Thomas Wake. Ephraim Winslow is Robert Pattinson. Thomas Wake is Willem Dafoe.
But he's not Winslow.
Doesn't he lie about his name at one point or something?
No. That Winslow's the fake name.
Got it.
Winslow's the name of the guy who he watched get sucked under the log.
That's what I was thinking.
Took all his stuff and like identity theft.
Yeah.
It's something else. I don't remember. It was
right.
Harsh accent.
But it was Tom because they both ended up being named Tom.
Maybe that's what it was.
Yeah,
but it's not Winslow.
Yeah, and they were both named Tom, and that's why that's where they got the idea was about the two lighthouse keepers who were both Tom. So yeah, I mean, there's a little deception happening, which can make it a little confusing. But yeah, so Robert Pattinson is playing basically this guy who was a lumberjack, decided to try his hand at this lighthouse keeper thing, and Willem Dafoe is basically like the senior lighthouse keeper and basically just giving him all the shit jobs. And at first it just seems like a pretty typical kind of superior and underling relationship, but then things progress, and then it's like kind of looks like, and the thing about this movie is that it's definitely one of those unreliable narrator type movies, so we really don't know what's real. At one point it looks like Willem Dafoe is sitting in the upper portion next to where the actual light shines, and he becomes like an octopus monster and masturbates or something like that. But
that was probably real.
Probably.
Yeah.
And then later he seems to turn into some kind of barnacle octopus monster while he's getting the shit kicked out of him.
Yeah, that was weird.
And so we just see this kind of back and forth, and so we don't really know what's really happening versus what is Robert Pattinson's character's just psychosis.
Yeah.
The part about it that I loved the most where they played with that is towards the end. We have this almost Shining-esque moment of Willem Dafoe chasing Robert Pattinson with an axe.
Mhm.
And he also had like hurt his leg at some point in his seafaring journey. And that's why like he can't do a lot of like...
He gave a couple different reasons to why.
Yeah, he can't do like the heavy lifting jobs that he's making Robert Pattinson do the whole time. So he's doing like this very reminiscent of The Shining, this like Jack Nicholson hobble thing while running with an axe. And then, so he's chasing him. He smashes up the lifeboat with the axe so that Robert Pattinson can't leave the island. And then they go back inside and they're arguing about what we just saw it play out, and they're arguing about it. And Willem Dafoe flips it back and says, oh no, you're the one that went out there with an axe and destroyed the lifeboat. You're the one that's going crazy. And like when he does that, like it's such a good mind fuck, because it's like, I literally don't know what is true now.
Yeah. And you started to get like that feel earlier on when like he comes in and it's like, they've been talking about like the rationing for, he's like, oh, for like the last 4 weeks. He's like, no, it's, you just only talked about it.
You just told me today. And we don't know if this like Willem Dafoe old seafaring captain guy who's taken over this lighthouse is just like fucking nuts.
Yeah.
Or if like he really is the sane one the whole time.
Yeah.
And like we're just seeing Robert Pattinson's mind unravel. We don't know.
Yeah.
And at the end, I would say we still don't actually know.
Yeah, I would say it's still like toss up in the air what's actually happening.
Yeah. So it's one of those movies that like no one's right and everyone's wrong, but also no one's wrong. It's just a lot of gray area. And if I have any criticism against it, it's that it feels a lot like The Witch. Because I felt that ended very similarly.
Yeah.
Of like, we know that like The Witch's... Spoilers for The Witch. We never reviewed it, so fuck off. The end, we know that there is a witch or a group of witches that exist in this woods, but we don't really know how much they were involved in the chaos that happened to this family.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's very similar here. Like, it seems like maybe something supernatural probably was happening, or it could be these guys were just both fucking insane.
Yeah, and drinking gasoline, kerosene.
And yeah, I don't really know what they used for lamp oil in early 19th century lighthouses, but
like whale, right?
Whale blubber,
something.
I don't know. Looked like they just dipped a bunch of honey in it and started drinking it.
We'll call it mead.
Call it mead.
I've had worse like IPAs, so.
Oh man. So one thing that I did want to bring up is just that, like, I feel like this movie was kind of set up to be like a favorite of mine. I spent 6 years living in Virginia. I spent 3 years living in Connecticut. I've done the haunted lighthouse ferry tours when I lived in New England. Like, so much of my childhood is hardcore East Coast, especially New England, and just like lighthouse shit.
Yeah.
My dad was a sailor. Like, I have been on, Navy ships and stuff. Like, it's just like I'm super nostalgic for this type of movie. And when I found out that Robert Eggers was doing a like New England lighthouse movie, I was like, oh, fucking awesome. Like my dad collects lighthouses. Like, this is a thing in my life. Like, it's always been present. I've always said that, like, I wish I could live in a lighthouse, like a decommissioned lighthouse.
You should just build one here.
I have said before, I will one day buy a plot of land, and if it has to be in the Midwest so that I can be close to my friends and family, it will be in the Midwest, and I will build a fucking lighthouse in the middle of land.
Put it by one of these little lakes.
I don't fucking care. I want to live in a lighthouse. I've wanted to ever since I was like 7 years old. Oh, God. And, I mean, it really delivered for me. I mean, I could criticize it and say that, like, maybe I wish some of the, like, more supernatural horror Lovecraftian themes would have come out stronger. Because I could say that, but at the end of the day, the questions are good. I understand that Eggers is more of this art house type of director, and he's not gonna make, Slither.
Yeah.
Like, he's just not. As much as I love that shit too, like, he's not gonna make something like that. So, like, you just kind of have to take it for what it is. One other interesting thing, apparently Eggers was pretty anal about this movie, even more so than The Witch. Him and his brother had the idea to make a movie about a ghost story surrounding a early American New England lighthouse before he had the idea to make The Witch.
Okay.
And they had that idea, and then he had the idea for The Witch. It's kind of like, because they're both like New England folk tales, essentially.
Yeah.
And it's almost like this was the first nugget of an idea, and then like he kind of spun that off and had the idea for The Witch, and he was shopping around the idea for The Witch first, and it got picked up first, even though they originally wanted to make this movie first. And so they went ahead and did The Witch as a pretty big success, and then they kind of circled back around, him and his brother, to writing the screenplay. One thing that he was really intense about was specifically the language. And he like did a deep dive research into both of these characters' like histories and what their accents should be.
Yeah.
And they said that there would be times where he would even like stop after a take and tell the actors, hey, do the exact same thing, deliver it the exact same way. You need to talk about 75% faster. Because it just wasn't like true to period.
Enough,
yeah. It was like, I'm playing a character who talks like this rather than like how people actually talk.
Yeah.
So like that was pretty cool. And yeah, I mean, just the idea of Pattinson and Dafoe not really interacting much out of character. They did say that they had a rehearsal, which is still pretty rare in film, but it's becoming kind of more and more popular in like the art house scene.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these actors who show up in art house movies come from a theater background.
Well, Dafoe comes from a theater background.
Background. So he loves this kind of shit.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because he just loved bare-ass naked Titus Andronicus.
So he's eating this up, and he's like, yes, let's do a theater rehearsal. This is brilliant. And so like him and Eggers, probably both of the brothers, I'm assuming from what I read, and Pattinson got like this hotel room in Canada and like sat down, just the four of them, and like ran through a bunch of scenes. And Willem Dafoe's eating it up the whole time because he's a theater actor. This makes sense to him. Robert Pattinson, who has only been a Hollywood movie actor, fucking hated it. And in his mind, it's like, whatever I create here, now I have to try to recreate when we're filming, and I don't have the capacity to do the exact same thing the exact same way twice.
Yeah.
Because that's what theater actors do.
Yeah.
I don't do that. And so it already started to create a friction between their two just like acting styles and kind of how they approach a character. And that apparently was actually very helpful whenever it bled into the friction of these two characters in the film. So yeah, I mean, a lot of like methods that the Egger brothers took and kind of setting this movie up to be what it is.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Okay, we can kind of get into our final thoughts here. I think that this movie is a slow movie. This movie is an art house movie. I think that if you liked The Witch, you'll probably like this. If you didn't like The Witch, you might still like this. I think it's different enough.
Yeah.
And like its arc and even like the pacing of like excitement versus like kind of slow narrative storytelling forebodingness is different enough between the two movies that I think this movie still moves a little bit faster than The Witch did.
Yeah.
And I think that people who thought The Witch was too slow could still enjoy this, even though comparing it to like fucking Evil Dead, it's still slow.
Well, I mean, like you say like slow burn, but like The Witch took a while to even light the match.
Right.
Like
That's
this
a
one
good point. That's a
had
good point.
the match lit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like from like 10 minutes in.
Yeah. I think that that's a good way to put it. And so I think that that even if you didn't like The Witch, I think there's still a chance that you could like this movie, even though it has at face value very similar qualities. It's a period piece, it's from the same director. It's kind of horror, but also kind of not. Also kind of like they're really pushing for historical accuracy at parts. Like so you could see a lot of things that are very similar between the two. If you're not careful, both movies, you can't understand anything anyone's saying.
Yeah, I would say subtitles on for this one.
We should have put subtitles on for this movie. I didn't think that was going to be as much of a problem as it was.
I think it was mostly like when Defoe got real heated and you were just like, wait, what? Like I was following you like a bit ago, but like you're going so fast. And that's good. I mean, that's natural. That's exactly the kind of performance that they wanted. It was really good. Defoe has at least 2, maybe 3 really intense monologues. Yeah.
And yeah, I need to go back and watch those with subtitles or look up online exactly everything that he said.
Yeah.
Because he goes off for a while on those monologues. Anyway, I give it a thumbs up. I'm going to put it at a 85%. I really, really like it. If I had watched this before the end of the year, it probably would have made my list for top 5 of the year. I don't think it would have been number 1, maybe 2 or 3. I still enjoyed Us more from that standpoint, but they are completely different types of movies. And so that being said, if I had to, fix my 2019 list, this would definitely go in at 2 or 3, kind of around the same place as Midsommar, which would knock Brightburn off the list.
Darn.
Congratulations, Alex. You win.
Listen. I mean, I also liked it. It gets thumbs up for me. It's the best horror movie of 2020 that I've seen so far. I haven't been watching a whole lot, but it's fine. It was really good. I definitely think it would have popped up on my list as well. Maybe knocked out Child's Play. Yeah. Since no one else liked that movie anyway. So
you know what I will say, just so you know, our listeners have come to the defense of Child's Play on Instagram. Almost everyone at least enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was
Some people
fun.
really liked it, but like very few of our Instagram followers agreed with Josh. Who was it? Josh, Danny, and Cody.
Everybody hated
about
it.
How bad it was.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Now someone's
if that
got to
helps.
back me up on Velvet Buzzsaw, please.
Good luck with that one.
It's not that bad.
Did you give it a percentage?
I would put it up there like 90. I really enjoyed it.
I think that's good. I think that's safe.
Watch it.
Yep. I will definitely buy this film. I think it has a very similar effect to Midsommar in that
there's so much there.
There's so much there. And it's like this thing of like when you watch a movie like that, you're not supposed to walk out feeling the same way you felt when you watched, say, Ready or Not. Like so many people who have really liked so many people who have really liked Ready or Not walk out being like, that movie was so much fun.
Yeah.
Midsommar and The Lighthouse, movies like this, you're not supposed to walk out thinking it was fun.
But you're supposed to walk out thinking. And that's what you should do, America. Think more. Not just have fun.
I mean, both are good, but
both are fine. Yeah.
But
pick up, sheeple.
Oh God. Okay. With that being said, I will say it is currently at a 92% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
So I think that we're right in the right ballpark there. It's definitely not a perfect movie, but it's hard to really come up with much criticism about it. Like, it's put together really, really well. It's one of those situations where any criticism that you bring to it is like, well, that's not the kind of movie that it is.
Yeah.
So get over it.
Yeah. Or like you just didn't understand it, maybe. Or like you just don't appreciate why they did that.
There it is.
Or you don't know why they did that yet until you
Yeah.
go home and research it, and we
Yeah.
start sending each other random facts about stuff. Like,
that will happen. And if you would like that to happen to you, you can always join our Discord.
it's true. I like random stuff all the time.
All right. Well, that about does it for us here tonight. For Night Shift Video, my name is James, and this guy is
Alex.
And we're just saying thanks for stopping in.